a better Nigeria? Is it a myth or do we keep hoping?
Nigeria is a highly religious country. How come corruption thrives?
Why is adoption not encouraged in Nigeria?
Is there a future for the Nigerian youth?
Being rich and famous, is that the only drive to be an artist?
What makes a great nation? Is it the leaders? What about the people?
This is Answers with Dr. Reju. Hi, my name is Onari, and this is Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. For a couple of weeks on the program, we've been talking about the role of the citizens in ensuring good governance. We encourage our listeners to visit our website, www.answerswithdrredu.com. From there, you'll be able to catch up on last week's discussions and, of course, all episodes from inception of this revolutionary radio program. Today, I have in the studio Adams Lojok. You're welcome, Adams.
Thank you.
Obi Brown.
Thanks, Onari.
And our chief resource person, Dr. Reju. It's always good to have you guys.
Thanks, Onari.
All right, let's get to the discussions. Adams, your input.
Last week you said citizens don't support government. That our duties are to support political parties. Now, can you clarify on that, sir? Why do you think we shouldn't support the government?
Okay, it's very good to, first of all, distinguish between support, because most of our politicians don't know when that transition happens, where they are no longer politicians, or they're not supposed to be politicians, or politicians who are now in government, and they still come to citizens to seek for understanding, to seek for support. The support ended with political activities for you seeking to go into that office. And what I mean there is not to say that citizens antagonize government unnecessarily. But I said that you don't want your government to come and ask you for support. You supported them to go and serve you. When they get into service, your role is no longer your support, but rather you want to make demands on them. You want to demand accountability. You want to remind them of all the promises they've made before getting into the place of governance. You see, when they needed support was when they didn't have the machinery of state to carry any decision out. The moment they are now entrusted with machinery of state, that's the support that they now need. The way the citizens help, so that maybe I should use the right word, the way you help them is by making demands on them. Because even every human being, we need a minimum level of pressure for our best to come out. So, but because of society such as ours, where political education is very low, citizens don't know that when that time shifts, their role also in governance, or maybe in government, must also shift. In literal terms, it's really like, how does a boss get the best out of his staff? Because when these guys are really in government, they are like our staff. We are the boss, right? We are the boss. We're paying them to serve us. And the government don't need to understand this, but citizens need to understand it. So that, like I said last week, that if the government says, I'm going to give you power, you want to ask him or her when.
Power being
electricity. Okay, thank you. I'm going to give you electricity. When? And then you begin to wait on you might even go ahead and ask how to see whether this thing is realistic. But I said that to actually correct this attitude of government still want to ask, citizens to support them. You need to support you. Let me also clarify here. I hope I'm not taking too much time. If it's in time of war, right, you want to back your government, especially when it's an external aggression. You want to back your government by offering your service. You volunteer in the military. You do all those kind of things. But when the nation is not at war, the primary job of those in government is to make life livable for me. And I don't care how they do it. They must do it because that's what they said they're going to do. So that's what I actually meant by that. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, honestly, I guess we're so far from that right now because in this immediate past transition period, we had agendas. You can't do anything about them. In other words, you want to pay the poor and unemployed 5,000. Everybody knew it's not possible, but we sort of just liked the sound of that, And I guess what I'm trying to say is we're so far from what you're talking about. But how do we now begin to come closer?
I get the point. We're far, but it's possible. It's difficult, but it's possible. And we have to start. And when we start, we must know that it's a very long journey. But because it's a very long journey, I want to do something profound, we have to start as small as possible. Right? And first of all, let the citizens have a bit of interest in political activities.
Okay.
The bulk of the citizens in Nigeria, those who are really in active politics, are very few. They are too few for effective delivery of government services. They are still very few. You know, a lot of people are still voters. We are just electorates. You know, so we need to have a particular movement within the citizenry that can begin to, and they are out there, especially young people who really need to go into active political activities. You know, and having said that, I need to make this point up front that first of all, you want to get active in political activities, you need to know that you want to go there to serve. And then number two, getting into political activities does not mean you are going to seek elective posts. It's a very wide field.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you are going to seek elective posts. But
Alone.
sorry?
Alone.
You know, because there are many other ways you can serve the polity. You can get into activism. You can begin to, you know, write some thoughts that are coming to you and put it in the public square. You know, but regardless of what you want to do, first of all, you need a platform.
Okay.
You need a platform. How do you begin to get that kind of platform? There are political groups out there now. Maybe some civil societies, some political parties. I believe that this civil societies, the political group, the political parties, is free entry, free exit. So you want to get into this, you know, groups for you to get a platform. But if you know you have enough clout and you really want to maybe do something quite profound, maybe you want to go to your village and maybe start something entirely new. Maybe that leads me to express this worrying thought that I've had. And it further goes to buttress what you said, that we're not there yet in terms of political education. That most politicians, budding politicians, growing horns, their first shot at politics is to want to be a president. It's so embarrassing. I mean, I don't know how to qualify it. I remember, you know, this brilliant journalist who worked with Concord and started the Ovation. You know, his first shot at politics, he was presidential candidate. You know, it's unheard of. In places where democracy has thrived, they want to first of all check your track record.
Yeah.
How many people have you served? At what level have you governed? So if somebody is going to start his political career and on his CV it is presidential candidate of a party, you know that this is just an unserious person. You don't have any antecedent. You've not cut your teeth. You've not honed your skill. You know, so there are people like that. You don't make a difference only from the top. You can make a difference right from beneath. So that's very important. But coming back to my earlier point, it's a very long journey. You know, this program we actually looked at how to go into business. Those principles are the same.
Okay.
Right? You want to go into politics, you must have seen a need. You must have seen a vacuum that you want to fit in. Right? And then having seen that, you want to build skill. How do you build skill in political square, in political space? It is by developing the philosophy, it's by developing an ideology, it's by being an ardent reader. You want to study the life of those who have been on that trail. You know, that's how you hone your skill. There was a time in this country where there was a lot of noise about what's happening in Singapore and all those kind of things. Singapore is a product of a well-honed ideology, a well-crafted philosophy, and then planted in the hearts of humans who acted as foot soldiers for that silent revolution that took about 25 years. So it didn't just happen. We have a citizenry, especially the youths, they are bereft, I'm so sorry, of ideas, of ideologies, and you know, it won't go far. Now, the political parties that we have right now, they have ideologies. Whether the ideologies are running their activities is another thing. They call to some progressive, some which is the other one? You know, because the APC prize themselves as progressives. The PDP, I don't know which one they, but they all have ideologies. Whether it drives, you know, what they do is now another thing. But we need to have a new breed of people who can join this present. My advice to the young ones is go and join the existing parties. At least the two major political parties in Nigeria right now. Political parties are run by ideologies. And I say it's another thing if the ideologies don't dictate or define their activities. All of them have it written. We need people, right? There's no political party who will write something, for instance, that we are here to embezzle, to loot the treasury. No. But they loot the treasury, which is against their ideology. We also need people who will come in there and always draw us back to what we said we want to do. You see, most ideologies are good, but most times it's the expression of the ideologies that get defective. So it's very important that you can even go into those political parties and change the ideology. Right? Okay, I'll say this much. You join the political party as a young man, you should also, you should also begin to encourage your likes, right?
Okay.
To join that same political party so that you can eventually create a critical mass.
Okay.
That much I'll say. Right?
Yeah.
You can effectively create a critical mass because politics is about numbers. It's about numbers. I would love to teach this in the room. Because there are people out there who don't need this information, but there are people who really need it. Those who really need this information, you might want to contact this program about the training we have in Center for Transformational Leadership.
Transformational Leadership.
And we can begin to talk about, how we want to structure this properly. My heart is really in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Reggie. So I'm thinking to myself, as a young man, a professional, a technocrat, all right, who wants to be active in politics, but there are two things on my mind. Perhaps I live in a place where I cannot really seek for political office, elected office at all, right? No matter the level, but I still want to be active.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are the options open to me, right? And I'm particularly maybe talking about some kind of activism. What are the flavors of activism that are open to me, so that I could be a little bit more vocal about my philosophies, about my thoughts and things like that?
Yeah, you can, and it's even quite easier today. I mean, in the age of social media, you can blog, and then if it's good and you stay with it and you are not moved by how many people read it by your first or second blog, right? If you are not moved by that and you stay with it, that's a very good way, because those who pressure the government are more influential. They are more effective, as far as I'm concerned, much more than those who actually do governance. So that's one effective way. And then you can take it from there. You say you're a professional, you can look at a politician, a budding politician, an aspiring politician with a good ideology, with a good philosophy. You want to fund it. You want to give the guy a prominence. You see, in societies where politics has really thrived, what seekers of political office do is to sell their vision to people. So people actually fund the vision, not the person. They fund the vision. So this is another area that Nigerians should look at. You don't have to be the man right in front there, but if you see somebody with good brains, with a good mind, with a good idea, with good philosophy, with good ideology, he's been able to articulate it to you, and you can put your resources behind that. You see, and that's why you see even abroad, you see that media houses actually endorse candidates if they know that this candidate will do what's right. So there are many. You can join civil society groups. You can actually sponsor curriculum, maybe in schools, that can produce wonderful, brilliant politicians. You can fund research, right? For example, one of the buttons I have in my heart is that there is no well-articulated history of this country. There are many books that have been written on it. I think we should have some minds that can bring those things together and really have, a very credible. There's no way you can write the history of a country and it's so holistic. Because people will always write from their different, but we need to first of all maybe go back to secondary. You can actually fund a whole agenda or a whole movement that we want to bring history back to schools. So there are many ways, but let me give this general counsel here. Anyone desiring the greatness of Nigeria, we must see a very long journey. We must really be planning for something that's long. And you must be so selfless that whatever you're planning, you might not even be alive when those things will be happening. Right. So that's my counsel, because the structure is wrong, it's defective. Whatever we build on it, it keep tumbling down. I mean, when a government official will still come in and say, let us scrap NNPC. I don't know what to say to that. And I like the way the other journalists there responded, on that program when the governor of Kaduna said they should scrap NNPC. He said, if you scrap an NPC, you are likely to build another one.
Absolutely.
It might be another name, because if you have not dealt with the philosophy that drive the institutions, in this country, I'm always thinking about when people say we don't need to build strong people, we need to build strong institutions. That doesn't make sense to me. What makes strong institutions are strong people. Now, how you measure now, the parameter you use to measure the strength of people now is what we need to look at. Institutions are lifeless without people. So it's not the problem of NNPC. It's a belief system that runs right through the whole of the society. NNPC is not different from the civil service. So those are the kind of things. There are many areas. One of it is this program. We are contributing now to society. We are educating people. So there are still a lot of things that people can do there to get active. But one thing is that you must know exactly that this is about service, right? And then you must know that there's an ideology, there's a philosophy that drives any kind of service for it to reach its intended end.
This is Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. Now, we've been on a discussion, and let Obi just continue from here.
Yeah, so just to continue from where you stopped, we're still talking ideologies and philosophies. What are sources of ideologies? How do people begin to craft ideologies and philosophies for themselves?
Ideologies are educational. People are taught. People develop it, right? You can develop it. There are very few people. I mean, the days of Karl Marx and all those kind of people, people still do that today, but we're basically built on what has been done over the years. Now, the challenge we have in our, in our society here in Nigeria is that most of the resources that we have, they are from abroad. So when you read these things, you need to put on a Nigerian goggle. The principles are transferable. So when you read these materials, you need to contextualize it. There was a time it was really popular here for people to recommend Lee Kuan Yew's book, From Third World to First. That's a very good book to read. That's a very fantastic book to read. But the size might intimidate you. It's quite thick, But maybe what I'll do on this program is maybe I'll work with Onari and then we'll put some resources on our website. That people can, because I can't begin to reel them on top of my head now. But like I said, it's not enough to know the resources. It's necessary, but it's sufficient to read them and contextualize. You can read things about, maybe watch the movie of the men who built America. And you can't transfer the principles to how we can, because the way they built America might not work for Nigeria. We must be able to look at the principles that are transferable. Look at the quality of life, which is universal. What runs right through those kind of things is service. They are doing something that is bigger than themselves. But we've not been able to do that here. That's why the society is backward. So those are the kind of things. Okay, there are books that the likes of Awolowo Road, maybe Amadou Bello, and all those kind of people. Zeke, he was quite studious. We can read those books. But again, we also need to know the time they wrote it, the information available to them, which has significantly changed today, right? So you must be able to transfer the principles to your present day reality to see how those things can work. So that's my advice. And then we're still talking about this issue of developing ideologies and things like that. And the question you asked about being a professional, really is struck a chord in me. And what I've seen around is that we have professional politicians. Now that's not a good thing for any society. You go into active politics to go and serve. It must never be your source of livelihood. The whole debate in Nigeria now about the emolument of legislators, it must never be your source of livelihood. As a teenager, I worked in the National Assembly in 1979. And I remember I worked with a committee. I said the Committee on Sovereign Innovation. Those who know the history, they will know the chairman. I won't mention his name. And I remember because we used to work in the media, and we sort of arrange interviews for him, and we listen out. As young as I was, I always remember this phrase when he introduced himself. My name is this. I am a miner, and I am a senator of the Federal Republic. He will first of all tell you his profession. That's why you see that it's a do or die thing. I hope I'm not quoting anyone here. It's a do or die thing. The guy loses the election, he fizzles out. The next time you're going to see him is during the election. You can't be a professional politician. Every serious-minded politician should have a source of livelihood, so that when you leave service, you go back to what you're doing. In fact, you use that to even support your quest to serve. That's really critical. Aspiring politicians must of also build a career. Build a career. Don't build a career in politics. Build a business. Build an outfit. Be doing something. Get into consultancy. You don't want to leave politics, active politics, serving in an office, and then you don't have anything to do. You are looking for the next election. That guy will never be able to serve effectively if your livelihood depends on it. I'll give you an example that an experience that I had in Zambia. I had this interaction with a guy who's the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in Zambia, and he was appointed to serve as the Minister of Finance. And we were talking about, at this time, was out of office, and he said something that really blew me away. He said maybe about 6 years that he served as Minister of Finance, there was the most trying times of his life. That even got to a point that to be able to keep his kids in school became a problem financially, because his business went down, because he didn't have time for it. This man is a farmer. In fact, he lives on his farm. If you eat anything in his house, it's from his farm. He said he could not really put an eye on that farm. And I said, wow, that's different from where I'm coming from. When you go into government in my country, that's where all your kids go abroad. And I looked at it that this man did not plan for public service. He didn't put a structure in place. If he has the ambition to go into public service, and he has a business, the way he runs that business must be in such a way that the business can run without him. So those are the kind of things that we advise. Public service shouldn't ruin your business. And you know that because you go into government, people are watching you. You don't even award a contract to your business. It's unethical. So that business must be able to live without you. Right? So if you want to change this society, these realities have to change. What are the antecedents of our political players, these leaders? What have they done outside of politics? If they have not done anything outside of politics, you can be assured of one thing: they only meet people in campaign grounds. They don't know them. If I have not worked in the company, if I have not worked in any kind of an establishment, I have not interacted with people. I only meet them in campaign grounds. They don't know how people feel. And you can't serve those that you don't know how they feel. I think I'll stop there.
Okay, just taking you back to serving people and how they feel, and taking you back to what you've said before about pressure groups. It's known that in Nigeria specifically, because of the level of our political consciousness and awareness and activism, pressure groups don't have enough voice as they should have. So people come together, and they have a burden, probably campaign promises. They come together to make sure that this government fulfill their campaign promises. How do they get their voice heard?
Sustained protest. You must be willing to stay there until you hear. Right? You see, the truth is, your voice is just one of many. Right? And when have they heard? Not when they have done what you want them to do. But at least they have responded. It's success for the legislators now to begin to talk about their emoluments. Forget the Freedom of Information Bill. It's not working. Right? It's not working. Forget about it. And it's not working not because of those who passed it, because of citizens. We're not making enough demands. People don't know that you have a right to know the details of the budget of Nigeria. Right? So it's very, very important that we know how to initiate a particular protest, sustain it, stay with it until they hear. But remember what I said maybe in the first episode when we discussed this issue of activism. Over the years, the voice of the citizens has been weakened because an economically weak citizenry they didn't really have enough nerve, to be able to sustain a protest, to keep the voice out there, to keep the voice out there. Because, you can't fight any cause without an economic teeth. But like I said also, having said that, we must also know that you don't have to start with a strong economic teeth. That particular activism can pick up strength with time. But if you see an activist or an activism, a particular project that goes on for a very long time, forget it. It has received some economy. The BBOG, I'm very sure, it can't be out there for that long if they have not received some sort of economic, it might not even be physical money, but some noted voices, some noted personalities, they picked interest in it and they keep it out there. To keep that voice out, it requires a lot of resources. But you don't have to start the house from the roof. You must be able to take it and then let the thing build its own life. Build its own life. It requires you staying there. I remember in this country when that foremost journalist was killed, Delegiwa.
Yes.
For years, every newspaper in this country put it, who killed Delegiwa? Who killed Delegiwa? It was there. There was a man who fought that thing to his grave. That's Ganifa Wemi. He fought that thing to his grave. And I remember when the son took over his chambers and everything, he said, we are going to continue. There's no time today that they still talk about the birthday or the day the guy was killed and everything, that maybe there are lectures about it, maybe there, so it's there. You don't know, one day one government will come when the citizen in the country that don't even know who the Legiwa is. I said, we need to revisit this case. Right?
Yeah.
So you need to keep it there. That's why I said, if you really want to do this thing, you must be so selfless that when the results start showing, you might not even be here. That's how to sustain it.
Thank you for another thought-provoking episode of Answers with Dr. Reju. Thank you, Dr. Reju.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adams. Thank you, OB. And to the listeners, thank you for listening.
Give us a call or chat us on WhatsApp on 081-4456-9000. Check out our website and interact with us on www.answerswithdrreju.com. Like our Facebook page, Answers with Dr. Reju, or send us an email at answerswithdrreju@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are @Dr. Reju Answers. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Answers with Dr. Reju, where you can get all our episodes. Join us again on Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified.